What if I told you that, you know that polite little lie you tell when someone compliments you? Like you deflect the praise just to make them feel more comfortable.
Oh, right, yeah. The classic humble brag or just playing small.
Exactly. What if I told you that isn't just some, harmless social grace? What if that tiny act of false humility is actually this cosmic distortion? A lie that fundamentally fractures the universe and, according to our source today, dooms humanity to just endless cycles of war and confrontation.
I mean, it really completely shatters how we usually view everyday social interactions because, we usually treat self-improvement as this sort of personal hobby,
Right.
right?
Like going to the gym for your personality.
You adopt a little mindfulness, you try to be a bit more grateful, but it's basically a lifestyle choice. The source material we are examining today just completely rips away that casual framework, like entirely.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are so thrilled you're joining us today because we are unpacking a text that basically raises the stakes of your personality to an absolute non-negotiable cosmic survival imperative.
It's intense.
It is. So the test is this highly specific philosophical framework by Zhu Feng, and it's titled Standards of Perfect Human Nature. And our mission for you today is to decode exactly what this blueprint demands of us. Because according to this author, if we don't achieve this perfect human nature, we forfeit any chance at a happy future, individually and as a species.
Yeah, but if we can achieve it, we unlock what the text calls a supreme life space. And the author doesn't leave this as some vague, abstract ideal that you can just interpret however you want.
Right, it's not up for debate.
Exactly. The text lays out this really rigid, systematic list of exactly 8 conditions required to achieve this state. It basically functions as a hyper-detailed architectural schematic for the human soul.
And just to give you the full map of what this entails, because it covers massive territory, it requires things like revering the creator, gods, nature, and people. It demands you possess absolutely no mind of losing or winning or even combating. You have to maintain total calmness in good and bad times. You must conform entirely to the laws of nature, love life, love labor, and remain, sympathetic and compassionate. It is an overwhelming set of directives.
It really is. And honestly, trying to tackle the philosophical weight of all 8 conditions at once would just dilute the impact of the author's logic, because each one requires a complete paradigm shift in how we perceive reality.
Which is exactly why, for this deep dive, we're just taking a magnifying glass to one single piece of the puzzle. We're looking at condition number 4.
Just the one, yeah?
Right. And this condition requires a person to be modest, trustworthy, and honest. Now, you hear those 3 words, and they sound like incredibly familiar, right? We teach them to kindergartners.
Yeah, it sounds like basic playground rules.
But we're focusing on this condition because the source material takes these everyday concepts, strips away centuries of social conditioning, and redefines them in ways that are deeply unsettling and, frankly, mind-bending.
Yeah, because the text treats these traits less like moral suggestions and way more like immutable laws of physics. It removes all that social performance and etiquette we usually associate with being a quote-unquote good person.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the concept of modesty. Because Yu Feng's radical definition throws everything we've been taught about being humble completely out the window.
Completely.
In this framework, modesty has absolutely nothing to do with self-deprecation. It's not about, shrinking yourself down so that other people feel less insecure around you. Modesty is strictly, coldly defined as seeking truth from facts.
Right, seeking truth from facts.
It means you neither exaggerate your abilities, nor do you disdain or downplay yourself.
And the epistemology here is just fascinating because in modern culture, modesty is almost entirely a performance, right? It's a social lubricant.
Oh, totally. If you win an award, you have to go up and say, oh, I don't deserve this, so many others are better than me.
Exactly, but the author views that performance as an actual affront to objective reality. In this text, modesty is pure data. It is a sterile, perfectly accurate measurement of your exact weight and mass in the universe.
And the text provides these historical examples to drive this home. And the specificity here is where my brain completely short-circuited.
Oh, the Einstein one.
Yes. The author writes that if Albert Einstein were to stand up and say, and I'm paraphrasing here, I am one of the greatest scientists, most scientists are not as good as I am, and some of them aren't worthy enough to be my servant. The text says we cannot call Einstein arrogant for that. We must, according to this cosmic standard, consider him entirely modest because he's simply stating an undeniable objective fact.
Yeah, the Einstein example is intentionally jarring. The author is forcing the reader to separate objective truth from social comfort.
But Wait, I have to push back on this, though. Because if I'm at a dinner party and someone looks around the room and literally says, "None of you are fit to be my servant," my immediate reaction is that this person is, well, they have a dangerous ego. It scans as malignant narcissism.
Oh, absolutely. By our standards, yeah.
Right. So how does a framework built on harmony and a supreme life space justify treating other human beings as inferior just because someone happens to be a genius?
Well, what's fascinating here is you have to view it through the lens of the author's counterexample to fully grasp the mechanics of this logic. The text contrasts Einstein with another massive historical figure, and that's Mao Zedong.
Okay.
So the author states that if Mao were to claim, "Oh, I know little of politics tactics, I'm no better than Qin Shi Huang or Emperor Liu Che, and neither am I as good as Zhu Enlai," we might socially view that as very humble.
Like a politician trying to sound relatable?
Exactly. But the text argues it is profoundly immodest.
Because it's a lie. Mao was undeniably a master of political tactics.
Precisely the author's point. To claim otherwise isn't modesty. It is a deliberate distortion of the factual universe. The framework argues that false humility is far more destructive than factual superiority.
Wow.
Yeah, because when you pretend to be less than you are, you're introducing a lie into the ecosystem. You're forcing everyone around you to participate in a shared delusion.
That completely flips the script. False humility is actually this massive energy drain on society because it forces other people to constantly prop you up and validate you against the obvious truth.
Exactly, it's high maintenance.
So modesty then is just knowing your exact dimensions and refusing to lie about them. And here's where it gets really interesting. The author doesn't just rely on human history to prove this.
Right, we get the nature metaphor.
Yes. The text launches into this surreal, incredibly entertaining thought experiment where nature itself is personified. We get flora and fauna literally talking to each other to demonstrate how this truth paradigm operates outside of human society.
Using a personified ecosystem is such a brilliant literary device, honestly. It allows the author to show what an environment looks like when every element simply accepts its objective reality without the interference of human ego.
And it paints this stunning picture. The text first sets up the modest ecosystem, and it reads like pure harmony. The sun freely admits, "I am not as tender as the moon." The moon replies, "I am not as brilliant as the sun." We see a peony, which is a famously ornate flower, admit it isn't as easy-growing as the grass. And the grass calmly admits it isn't as delicate and dear as the peony. It's a perfectly factual garden where no one is threatened by the existence of someone else's strengths.
Because every entity in that modest ecosystem possesses a flawless internal calibration. They don't waste energy wishing they were something else or, tearing down the natural advantages of their neighbors.
But then the author immediately contrasts this by showing us the immodest ecosystem. And you guys, it is absolutely vicious.
It really is.
The text provides this deeply petty, trash-talking dialogue between the elements. The sun starts mocking the moon, claiming the moon is nothing because it sneaks around and hides during the day. The moon fires back, calling the sun defiant and insolent for hanging naked in the sky and glaring at the masses.
They immediately weaponize their differences. The moment they lose their grip on objective, modest truth, their defining characteristics just become insults.
Oh, but the plants are exponentially worse. The peony starts bragging endlessly about the famous Luoyang Peony Festival. It claims it has so much power it even fights emperors.
That's got a huge ego.
Huge. It looks down at the grass and calls it a useless thing that knows nothing except being manipulated and kissing the dirt. And the grass does not hold back for a second.
I mean, the monologue given to the grass is arguably the most dramatic and poetic section of the entire text.
It really is. The grass calls the peony a painted skin that just seduces the elite with its outward appearance. It brings up deep historical grievances, reminding the peony that it was driven gloomily out of the Forbidden City by a paper order from the historical empress Wu Zixin.
Just absolute ether from the grass.
Right. It called the Peony Festival a narcissism farce. And then the grass proudly quotes its own resilience. It says, "Wildfire cannot burn us all. When spring comes, we are growing again." It boasts that its footprint covers every wilderness and valley, while the peony is trapped in a tiny, fragile city.
The sheer hostility of that exchange perfectly illustrates the author's core thesis, though. Immodesty is the birth of conflict.
Yes.
The moment you exaggerate your own importance, you inherently require the degradation of others to sustain your inflated self-image.
Reading that section felt exactly like scrolling through a toxic internet comment section or watching a reality TV reunion special. Everyone is utterly obsessed with their own status, exaggerating their power, and completely dedicated to annihilating the other person's worth.
It's very human.
It is. But what makes this powerful is how the author grounds this surreal, trash-talking garden back into a very stark human reality with a personal anecdote about a shopkeeper's wife.
Right. The text anchors the metaphor in everyday class struggle, though the author describes knowing a woman who originated from a peasant background, much like the author's own roots. She managed to borrow some money, gained a small fortune, and elevated her status to become a shopkeeper's wife.
Okay.
And almost immediately upon securing this new status, she began mocking poor people.
The author recalls her calling the poor the ill-breed ghost of poverty, complaining that they annoyed her to death. The text describes hearing this as feeling like a fishbone stuck in the throat, impossible to swallow, impossible to spit out.
Her behavior is the human manifestation of the immodest peony. She completely severed herself from her objective history. The text actually notes how rapidly people forget their past suffering, discarding it faster than a rocket. Yeah, forgetting your class origin, forgetting the dirt you grew from, and looking down on those who are still there is a profound violation of objective truth. True modesty requires the recognition that the universe is overwhelmingly vast, and we are fundamentally equal in our insignificance.
The phrase the text uses is, "there are always bigger mountains." It's this humbling realization that no matter how much wealth you accumulate or how brilliant you are, you're just a speck in a cosmos filled with secrets.
Exactly.
So if modesty is this ruthless commitment to the objective truth of our own smallness, that creates a fascinating bridge into the author's second trait, which is trustworthiness. Because modesty is internal, but trustworthiness forces that internal reality out into the open.
Yeah, that transition is the mechanical core of condition number 4. Because if modesty dictates the truth of how you perceive yourself, trustworthiness dictates the truth of how you interact with the rest of humanity. You cannot have a harmonious external world if the internal baseline is distorted.
The author defines trustworthiness as fully assuming your responsibilities and obligations. It means practicing exactly what you preach, absolutely zero nonsense, and no deceiving others.
Plain and simple.
And what really stands out is how aggressively the text applies this to every single echelon of society. It isn't just about, like, business contracts. It explicitly says parents carefully raising children is trustworthiness. Children supporting the elderly is trustworthiness.
Bosses caring for subordinates.
Yes, and subordinates doing their jobs diligently. It is the invisible, frictionless gear that allows a society to turn.
It acts as the fundamental physics of the social contract in this framework. Without trustworthiness, human interaction just devolves into a collection of isolated, paranoid actors constantly bracing for betrayal.
Which sounds exhausting.
It is. The author draws a very sharp, unforgiving line between those who possess this trait and those who do not. A trustful man has conscientiousness. He's a known quantity who will not fail you. But the text uses incredibly alarming language to describe a trustless man.
Yeah, that language completely stopped me in my tracks. The author writes that a trustless man is unknowable, that he is dangerous, and that he enjoys quibble.
The quibbler.
Right. Now, my immediate hypothesis when I read the word quibbler was to picture a lawyer arguing over a misplaced comma in a contract, or someone debating the semantics of a restaurant bill.
Sure.
It's annoying. It's frustrating. But why does the text elevate a quibbler to the status of being actively dangerous to perfect human nature?
Well, think about what a quibble actually achieves. In a framework that demands absolute adherence to objective truth, a quibbler is someone who weaponizes language to constantly shift the parameters of reality.
Oh, interesting.
They use semantics to evade their obligations. If you can't pin down what a person means when they speak or what they believe from one moment to the next, they become an unpredictable variable.
They introduce a virus into the societal code. I get that.
Yeah.
If we were trying to build this supreme life space, like a utopia based on stability, someone whose reality shifts depending on what benefits them in the moment makes that foundation impossible to pour. You can never trust the ground you're standing on.
Exactly. When a person's word means nothing, their existence becomes unknowable. And anything unknowable in a highly structured ecosystem is a threat to the survival of that system, which naturally pushes us toward the final and perhaps most difficult pillar of condition number 4.
Honesty.
Yes.
Modesty is the truth of self. Trustworthiness is the truth of action. And honesty, according to the text, is the raw material. It's the fundamental nature generating all of it.
The author establishes this brilliant hierarchy of natures to contextualize why humans are uniquely burdened with honesty.
Right, the latter.
Yeah, the text posits that every category of existence operates on a defining wavelength. So substances, like rocks or water, have the nature of being simple. Beasts, who must survive through predation or evasion, possess the nature of being cunning. The divine, or Buddha, has the nature of transcending. And human beings are sandwiched right in the middle of this cosmic ladder. And our defining evolutionary trait, our specific nature, is supposed to be honest.
It's what separates us from the animals on one side and the gods on the other. And the imagery the author uses to define honesty is incredibly vivid. It's described as being entirely practical and realistic, neither enlarging nor lessening.
Pure reality.
The text uses the idiom deer's deer, horse's horse, which is just a beautiful way of saying you call things exactly what they are without political spin or manipulation. It means admitting the emperor in his new clothes is walking around completely naked.
Even when it's awkward.
Especially then.
Yeah.
If you're thirsty, you say you're thirsty. Whatever is in your mind is exactly what comes out of your mouth.
There is no beating around the bush and absolutely no steering your opinions according to the prevailing wind.
The descriptions of dishonesty are just as poetic, but they paint a terrifying picture of psychological exhaustion. Dishonesty is described as putting a needle inside cotton. Yeah, it's having one face to God and another to the devil. The text talks about crossing the sea under camouflage and promising to be obedient while secretly mapping out an escape route. It sounds like a miserable, paranoid way to live.
Because it is a regression. When humans employ cunning, camouflage, and hidden needles, we abandon our designated human nature and devolve into the survival mechanics of beasts. We abandon the cosmic order.
So what does this all mean? Because this brings us to the most brutal, shocking paradox in the entire source material.
Here we go.
The author lays out this beautiful, pristine ideal of radical honesty. But then, the text unequivocally states that dishonesty completely rules four specific arenas of human life.
The big four.
The battlefield, the marketing place, official circles, which is politics, and the love field. In these four major pillars of human existence, the text explicitly guarantees that being honest means absolute failure and elimination.
It is a sweeping, devastating indictment of modern human civilization. The author is declaring that the fundamental systems we have constructed to govern trade, power, conflict, and even romance are inherently hostile to perfect human nature.
Think about the mechanics of those four arenas. In marketing, the entire goal is to enlarge the truth to sell a product. In politics, survival depends entirely on steering according to the wind and putting a needle in cotton.
Absolutely.
In war, crossing the sea under camouflage isn't just an option, it's a tactical necessity. And even in the love field, courtship relies on presenting a curated, idealized version of yourself. The text is literally telling us that to participate in the modern world is to play a rigged board game where the rules actively punish you for playing fairly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author uses a striking metaphor to capture this exact tension. The text states that an honest man thrust into a world of liars is a sheep wandering into a herd of wolves. And conversely, a dishonest man operating among honest people is a wolf feasting on a herd of sheep. The author offers no illusions here. In the world as it operates today, honesty makes you pray.
So why on earth would anyone choose to be the sheep? Like, if the text acknowledges that being honest guarantees failure in business, politics, and love, how is anyone supposed to adopt this standard without completely ruining their life?
Well, this is where the framework demands a radical shift in your time horizon. The author concedes that a cunning, dishonest person can secure temporary victories.
Yeah.
They might amass immense wealth in the marketing place or dominate official circles for an entire lifetime. But the text argues that these individuals are doomed to live with a chaotic, paranoid mind. And more importantly, they disqualify themselves from the ultimate cosmic payoff. They cannot enter what the text calls the 1,000-year world in the next life.
A temporary earthly victory in exchange for eternal cosmic defeat.
That is the ultimate choice presented to the listener. To achieve perfect human nature, you must be willing to sacrifice the immediate present. You have to willingly give up the, quote, loss and gain of a city or town.
You have to let it go.
You must shed the heavy, exhausting burdens of trying to win in a rigged, dishonest system. Only by accepting material defeat in the lows of this current life can you secure a serene mind and stride toward that eternal, brilliant future.
I mean, it is an unimaginably heavy sacrifice. You are essentially being asked to voluntarily lose the battles of today so that you can win eternity. So just to pull all of this together for you listening, we've traversed a massive philosophical landscape just by examining condition number 4.
We really have.
We began by completely dismantling the social performance of modesty, replacing it with the cold, objective truth of exactly what we are, whether we hold the intellect of Einstein or the humble resilience and grass.
Right. And we then followed that internal truth outward into trustworthiness. Recognizing that the quibbler, the person who constantly shifts reality to avoid obligation, is a fundamental danger to the stability of any society.
And we finally arrived at the daunting reality of honesty. The profound realization that to be truly human is to be radically honest. To boldly declare that a deer is a deer and a horse is a horse, even when the systems of power, wealth, and romance actively hunt us down for doing it, we must choose to be the sheep among wolves, to secure our place in the 1,000-year world.
It is a framework that challenges the very foundation of how we live. And, as we conclude this analysis, there is a lingering implication of this text that requires some really deep consideration.
Where does this leave us?
Well, we focused on the struggle to reach this 1,000-year world by shedding our cunning and embracing radical honesty. But imagine for a moment what that supreme life space actually looks like once we get there. A world entirely stripped of the polite fictions, the gentle deflections, and the social camouflage we use every single day just to soften the edges of human interaction. If every single person is relentlessly stating objective facts, without ego, but also without any cushioning, would that actually feel like a utopia to us?
Oh, man.
Or are our current human minds so accustomed to the comfort of the needle in the cotton that a world of blinding absolute truth would be deeply psychologically terrifying?
That is a staggering thought.
Yeah.
As we evolve to rely on a little bit of dishonesty just to survive each other, it makes you wonder if we are even capable of handling the perfection this blueprint demands. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems you operate in, keep examining your own internal baseline, and we will see you next time.